you might be able to tell we're pretty good at plants. We are not so good at technology. My apologies, everybody. We had a bit of a mix-up. This is our first time doing this, and we couldn't be happier to be doing it with you guys. So, hi, everybody. Thank you for bearing with us, and thank you for your patience. Kayla reached out to me a while ago now with an idea for a virtual plant night. And I immediately said yes and followed that up with what exactly is that? And as you can see, we are on a learning curve. And I want to point out that I'm not wearing a mask because I don't want anything muffled. It's a pretty open area. But Brandy and Sydney, who are here with us, we're all 6 feet apart and they do have their masks on. So I'm just not wearing mine so that I'm not muffled. But yeah, so Kayla reached out to me and asked if we'd be interested. Some of you guys had seen what Brandy and I had done on GA Kids TV. And you wanted a fresh approach. And we would have loved to have had you guys in store and done this personally and had some laughs. And then we wouldn't have had these massive technological issues. If you guys saw GA Kids TV, maybe you saw some of we had phones fall down. We had an entire set blow over in Tree Lot. So at least you guys know where we set the bar. And Kayla reached out and asked about a terrarium planting thing. And I asked Brandy if she was in. Brandy said absolutely. And we thought we'd work with you guys. So, I assume by now that you guys have, all kind of, you've got your terrariums. Now, what I did for me personally, we just grabbed a square one simply because it's the easiest. The principle is the same on any one you use. If you've got a teardrop one, a hanging one, everything I'm about to show you is the same. You might have one sits on a jaunty angle, something like this. All of the principles are the same. What we're going to be looking at is more the design aesthetics, how to keep it alive, the fun we're going to have with it. And then we'll talk a little bit about how to propagate succulents, what you guys can do. And then we'll have a Q&A. Brandy is doing the admin. She's monitoring the chats. You guys have anything? If we're going too fast, you want something repeated, let Brandy know. She can always voice it to me. And then at the end, we'll start unmuting people and moving things around, and we'll all have fun. So thank you all for being here. I'm super excited. It is an absolute pleasure to do it. So we'll get started. So essentially, I just grabbed a mixture of succulents. Brandy wanted the fuzzy one, so that's the one we're going to go with. But really, they're all the same. Just like any kind of annual, perennial tree, they're all variations on a theme. They all kind of need the same type of love, the same type of soil, light and water, that kind of thing. So the soil you guys will have gotten is this. I give this one to Kayla, and I believe she broke it all up and give it to you guys. And it's it's literally planting cactus, succulents, and tropical plants. It's a pretty generic blend is the word I'm looking for, but it works amazingly for succulents. Because succulents and cactus, they really are all in the same family. The number one mistake people make with succulents, and we'll touch on this later, is watering. Your succulent doesn't want a lot of water. The best way to tell is to look at the leaf. So that's a leaf. It's not your traditional leaf. And as long as it's fat and plump and juicy, then it's got all the water it wants. As it needs, that leaf will basically start getting thinner and deplete. And when you see some wrinkles in it, it needs a drink. The succulent, most plants, I'm sure you guys know a lot of this, but most plants will tell you when they need a drink. And if you have to err, it's always better to err on the side of underwatering. A lot of times people will come with a plant and they're like, can you help save my plant? they basically just haven't watered it enough and the plant is really thirsty. That is easier to bring back than a plant that has been overwatered. There's root rot in there. It hasn't been able to breathe. There's no gas exchange. It might have completely rotted off. I can't fix that. I can replenish a plant with water. So when you're doing this, it's always better to err on the side of underwatering. And a good rule of thumb for any of your house plants with water is less water more frequently. So you got a lot of people and they come and they fill the pot right up like they would an outdoor plant. And then they don't water it again for 2 weeks. It's better to just give it a light drink, and then 3 days, 4 days, a week, whatever, later, you may find it needs it again. And I'm just going to touch on this. Some of you may have more than one succulent. This may inspire you. You may want to get more than one. It isn't one size fits all. You might have a succulent in an east window, and you might have another succulent in a west window. The one in the east window might need watering once every 2 weeks. The one in the west window might need watering once every 4 days. So it's really keeping an eye on the soil, looking at the plant, seeing what it needs. That being said, it shouldn't take you much longer than 30 seconds to quickly assess if your plants need water, and then you can kind of do it accordingly. If you want to group your succulents together, you know, oh, Thursdays is when I water my succulents kind of idea. So now that we've got that out of the way, I'm going to keep these because we're going to show you what we can do with these after. So I'm going to move these over to here, and I'm going to take my little terrarium here. So what I'm going to do first and foremost, I don't know if you guys have done it, is get rid of the price tags. I don't particularly like them on, and it's a lot easier to flip it upside down when it's empty than flip it upside down when it's filled with a succulent. And I have a ton of plants at home, and I have a ton of plants in my office here. So I am planting this one for my wonderful friend and colleague, Brandy. And I asked Brandy to bring in some of her own decorations, but we'll get to that. So the first thing you want to do is just get your soil open. Now, normally, again, if you guys have seen any GA Kids TV, you know, normally I don't really much care about making a mess. I'll get my hands in and get dirty. But I figure a lot of you aren't doing this in a big greenhouse. You're probably doing this in your kitchen, dining room table, coffee table. I have literally done plants everywhere. Pro tip, don't do it on a carpet, but that's one I learned. I think it was the third time I did it, I learned. My plants looked great though. Carpet was a bit of a pain in the butt. But essentially, all you're gonna do is you can use your hand. I've got my handy dandy little scoop here. Normally I would use my hand or I'd just be dumping soil in, but I'm trying to replicate if I was gonna keep this clean. So I'm just literally gonna take a couple of scoops. I'm just gonna dump them in like that. And then I'm firming it down. Now, I'm not gonna reef it down. I'm not trying to make this as hard as possible. All I want it to be relatively flat, relatively level, and I just want it firm. Okay, so just like that. You see some people where they're doing this and they've got their knuckle going and they're firming it down. Roots eventually are going to have to grow into that. So you want it so that it offers stability without being compact. So with that being said, that's a little bit too compact. Nope. I was trying to make a solid. Oh, look at that. I did make a mess. Literally took me no time.
I told him you'd do that.
Thank you. I probably should have put that back. Anywho.
Hey, we have a question.
Yep, of course.
Do you have to, this is from Diva. Do we have to hydrate our soil if it's not moist enough?
No, so you'll find this is another reason I love this soil. The soil isn't going to feel moist when you touch it, but this soil is wonderful. The moment you plant and you water it, it's just going to suck that water up and expand. Moistening the soil now is going to make it real messy later on. Again, another rule of thumb I always like to approach my planting with is, and this is purely for cleanliness, water at the end. Now, if I'm in the garden on a hot summer's day and I'm planting or transplanting or something like that, and I've got like a 4-hour chore ahead of me, I'm doing my pots and I'm weeding and I'm planting, and some of my plants aren't looking too happy, obviously I'll get water on them. Health of the plant comes first. But if you can wait until the end to water, that's what I strongly recommend. I've got my handy dandy spray bottle and my watering can ready to go. But again, I've got them off to the side and we're not going to need them. You saw that soil, me just using my knuckles, how much that compacted. So I put that in like that. It's loose, turn it upside down, it comes out. One firm push like that and it held enough. That's going to give your plant enough support without hydrating it. So don't worry about that at all. Okay, so we'll just reuse this. What we're going to do is exactly what I did the first time is we're just going to put that in. And again, all I'm doing is just using the back of my hand and I'm literally just tamping it down. There isn't a lot of pressure on this. It's in and it's nice and smooth. And that's it. I just want a level. I just want a base. That base is what my succulent, brandy succulent, is going to sit on. If you have a tag, feel free to keep it. I don't. I find them unappealing. I know it's a succulent. I don't really find them aesthetic. And then you want to get your succulent out of the pot. Now, the great thing is, even here where we are open to the elements, it's an overcast day. It's not warm. Don't have sun beating down on this. So I don't mind if the roots are slightly exposed. So all you want to do here is give it a couple of squeezes all the way around, all the way down. And again, it doesn't matter what size pot. So we got a square one there. We got a round one here. There's a round one. Same thing. You just want to go around and you should see the root ball, the soil inside, moving side to side like that. This might be a good one. Yeah. So you can see that opening up real nice. Now, all we're going to do is we're just gently going to put our fingers on the plant to give it some support. Again, no pressure. Flip it upside down. Even do it over here to save making a mess and gently squeeze it out. And that's what we've got. So what I'm going to do with mine, I don't know what you guys have got, is I'm just gently going to loosen the soil around it because these roots have grown into the shape of this. I don't want that. I want these roots. They're adventitious roots, and that's what I want them to do. I want them to go on an adventure. I want them to fill in all of this. So any of the loose soil around the top, just knock that off, clean up the plant. Then you can see the roots slowly getting exposed and coming out. So that's all I want. And again, I'm not breaking it. I'm not snapping it. You know, I'm sure, again, you guys know, we don't want to damage the roots. So all I'm doing is just tickling the roots out. And all I'm doing, you can see some of the soil falling off, but it's going to stay like that. And that's kind of how I want it to look. I want it to retain its shape, but I want it to be a little shaggy. Let's put that down. As opposed to if we take this one out and I plant it directly like that. It's staying in a plug. I want mine to be a little bit shaggy. I want those roots to be encouraged to grow. Drop him right back into there. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to nestle out just a small area, the size of it. I'm not going down to the glass. I don't want this sitting directly on the glass. I want a layer of soil in there, but all I'm doing is pushing it out. So you can see, set this down. I've just made a little indentation right in the middle right there. So all I'm doing there is I'm just moving it aside, keeping it in the center. Now, you don't have to go to the center. Again, it's aesthetic. My brain immediately goes, oh, put it in the center because that's what I think. But you can see on these guys, and these guys I started, we'll talk about this when we propagate. And I started these guys just from a leaf in the soil. Well, I put the leaf in the middle, but this grew off onto the side. So you can, if you like the idea of an aesthetic and you like it in the corner and you want to put some of your decoration in front of it, put it in the corner. If you want to put it right at the front, that's how it is. There's no wrong answers when it comes to aesthetics. When it comes to the art, that's your choice. It's what is going to make you happy, what's going to make you want to do your succulent. So I'm just going to set my succulent in right there. Is it going to stand up? Is she going to stand up on her? Hey, and that's just nestled in the groove. And that's what I'm going to do now. So now, taking my handy dandy little scoop again, all I'm going to do is just fill around. And if you have, I should mention this as well, if you have accidentally broken the root, so this poor guy, eventually I'm going to tear this completely apart when I show you guys how to propagate succulents. That's why I keep going back to it. So if when I said to stroke it out and you accidentally went, oops, and you ripped some roots off, again, I made a mess, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. If you haven't separated the top from the roots and it's still got roots like that, you're okay. It might not even be a bad thing, because if roots come off like that, what you can do is trigger the plant to be like, oh no, I need more roots, and it can actually promote more active growth. That being said, I do not recommend it. That is not the approach we want to go with here. But if that has happened, don't worry about it. It wouldn't be my first time doing things like that. So as you can see, I put in a clump of soil, and all I'm doing here is I'm just going around, and much like I did with my back of my hand there, I'm just tapping this down. All I'm doing, again, not firming. I don't have, my fingers in there. I'm not firming it down. I'm not using my thumbs. All I'm trying to do is give the plant a little bit of stability. Now, Brandy picked a fuzzy plant and the soil is sticking to it. So Brandy, your plant's going to be covered in soil. So another small scoop. There we go. And same thing again, just keep going around, and all you want to do is gently firm it in. Now, then make sure while you're doing that your plant stays nice and straight. So again, if you're doing a wonky one like that, you don't particularly want to aim your plant coming straight out. Nestle it in the back, put it on a slight angle, but you don't want to necessarily put it on a 45. You can even have it standing straight up. Your plant will find its own way where it wants to grow. I've seen people do terrariums. We did, I think it was 3 years ago now, and myself and one of my colleagues did a terrarium workshop here. I think there was 12 people who came by, and it was great watching them do it. And then they sent us some pictures, and it was so funny. One of them had put that plant. It was a planter like that. They put it at the very front, and the thing was already sticking out. But where they put it, the way the light was, it actually bent back in and around towards the light. So how you set it up and where you put it is going to have less effect as opposed to the environmental where it lives. So depending on where the light is coming from and what's going on, that's going to have more an effect of where you set it. So take another little bit of soil, and you don't want to go, it's easier to add soil than it is dig soil out. That's another reason I go in layers like this. I don't want to be trying to lift soil out from around this. And instead of filling it up and then trying to put it down, just do a little bit at a time, firm it in, and the plant should stay up on its own. So now, that plant is planted. So now I'm firming down just a little bit harder. And again, you can see, all I'm doing there is I'm just using 2 fingers and I'm just going down. You don't want to smoosh your root ball. You don't want to crush it. And you certainly don't want to break. A lot of times what we'll see happen is somebody will have a plant like this and they go to firm it down and they try to get in too close and they end up snapping it. You snap this from the root ball. You're not doing it in the terrarium tonight. It's not finished yet, but I think we have another question.
Yeah, Elise says the teardrop hanging pot doesn't have enough room for that much soil. It comes out the fold. Any suggestions?
So the teardrop one, I wish I've got one of those, but we sold it out. So essentially, that's the hanging one that comes down like that, and it's got the hole at the front. So what I would do with that one is I would build up more soil at the back, and I would actually put my succulent in. So if this was my planter here, and I would put my succulent down like that on an angle, and I'd make more soil at the back. I wouldn't go level across, and it'll be fine. Again, when you water it, that soil is going to harden up. And you know what? What we'll do here as well, I'll tell you guys this. If any of you have a major problem and you're getting frustrated and you're like, oh, this isn't going. Unfortunately, we didn't have a one-size-fits-all terrarium. So if any of you are frustrated let me know one-on-one, and what I'll do is I will try and find a terrarium like yours, and I'll give you some one-on-one instruction. But honestly, try and make it more to the back of that teardrop one, and put it in. Again, see if you can't tickle your roots out, because if you can get your roots exposed, and again, all I'm doing is just gently tickling it. I'm not breaking the roots, I'm just knocking the soil off it. And then what you can do is, instead of it needing a pot that size, remember when it came out, it was the perfect plug. Now look at the difference in height. So another reason to clean it up is that you can actually shrink it, and then you're going to get your roots to sit in, as long as you're not damaging them. Yep.
Hey, so they were talking about the leaves of the succulent teardrop container full. Can you force it?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. If you've got to push it in, you'll find people seem to think that succulents are really, I'm scared I'm going to break it. They're pretty bouncy. You're going to be okay. And if a leaf comes off, you just made yourself a new succulent. And we're going to show you that after. So honestly, if a leaf breaks off and it's harder than you think, there we go. Got one. Keep it. Keep that leaf. Don't throw it out. Don't think it's ruined. And I'm going to show you when this is done, how to propagate a succulent from this leaf. So again, yeah, don't be scared of them. You don't have to treat them super gentle. You can smoosh them like that, and that is just fine. So I've narrowed that up. Like I could fit that into there if I wanted. Let's do it just for funsies. Not how you want to plant one, but there you go. And then if I gently bring it back out, it's a totally fine succulent. So a lot of people do that. A lot of people seem to think that succulents are babies and you've got to be so gentle. Nothing could be further from the truth. They're actually an extremely resilient plant, and they're actually quite tough. That being said, you don't want to, again, smoosh it. Always approach it gently but firmly. That's it, and you'll be fine. So if we're all at this stage now, so you've got your soil in, now you can leave it like that, okay? That is planted. There's nothing wrong with that. If you wanted, always clean this up, otherwise you will make mud. It's one thing to make mud outside when you're wearing your boots and go jumping in it. It's another on the kitchen table. And you can go ahead if you want and water that. I like a spray bottle for my first watering. If you don't have a spray bottle and all you've got is a watering can, that's fine as well. Just very, very gentle. You see a lot of people in their life for their first watering. You don't need that much. All you want to do is just very gently, just little drops of water like that. If you don't have a watering can or a spray bottle, bottle of water. That'll work just fine as well. And again, same thing, just little bits of water all around. Remember what I said at the beginning, you don't want to overwater it. Like that's more than enough water for this guy. The soil is absorbing it beautifully. It's still holding up. It hasn't fallen over. It looks great. So now I asked Brandy, since I was, and again, go ahead and firm it down, but you can see exactly what I mean now about creating the mud. So my hands were coming out relatively clean. The two fingers now have got that on it. Again, it's not going to hurt anything. Just makes a mess. I don't worry about it too much here. Again, you guys are at home. So now comes the easy part, and that's your aesthetics. And honestly, there is no wrong answer for this. The only thing you have to be careful of here, when you put it in, I see some people and they jam so much in that they're burying the leaves. The succulent barely has any room, or they put heavy things in, they put in rocks and they start compacting the soil. So you want to go nice and light. You can put in moss, obviously isn't going to hurt anything. It's going to allow for a gas exchange. So I asked Brandy to bring me some things, and she did. I didn't realize she was going to knock over a bank, but we got some diamonds here. We got our rock. Wonder what Brandy was doing on the weekend. We got a little vial of sand. Total appeal to my inner nerd. Some gaming dice, and then a pretty amethyst. I don't know, what is this, Brandy?
I don't know.
Okay, and a pretty rock, a shiny, pretty flat rock. So again, pick where you want it to be the front, and even with your square ones, even with your teardrop ones, a lot of people immediately look, they see the hole and they go, oh, that must be the front. Doesn't have to be at all. If you want that to be the back, where that's where you put the water in, and you want the front to be the solid uniform wall, go with that. Again, there's no right or wrong answer when it comes to the aesthetics. So all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to gently take these, and we're going to do all the diamonds, and I'm just going to place them in that corner. And then I like the contrast of the purple. Oh, D4 got away from me. D4 got away from me. Okay, they can go in there, just like that. And again, we have a rock. So anybody who's putting a, look at that, follow your heart. How sweet. Anybody who's using a rock, it is fine. But what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to put the rock, you can see what I'm doing, I'm going to put it in the corner back here. The reason for that, it is not on the root ball at all. So if that accidentally gets pushed down, if it waters, it starts getting pulled in, it's just on soil. There is no way that is going to compact on the root whatsoever. We got a little vial of sand. I'm going to stand that up. Hey, come on now. D8 is being a pest now. Multiples of 4.
You didn't have to put everything in it.
Too late. Don't bring me everything. Again, I'm much like a child. Less is not more, more is more. And then there you go. And it's literally that easy. You do the aesthetic to your, to your taste, your style. And then you can see there, everything is in. The plant is holding up. Now, one thing again, you can see on Brandy's furry leaves, she had to pick the furry one, the soil has got stuck. What I would do with that, if anybody has that problem, the first instinct people go with, like, oh, try and wash it off. You're going to end up overwatering the plant. I have watered it. Now it's going to turn to mud. Honestly, wait until it's dry. One finger under the leaf, and it'll come off just like it dust. Doesn't hurt to dust your leaves anyway. So let it dry like that, and you can wipe it off. It's not going to hurt at all, and that's all there is to it. It's like that. Now, everything I just said about watering, that's your long-term goals, okay? If you remember what we were talking about. And also, I want to mention as well, Brandy is recording this, and we're going to post it on our blog page. Feel free to use it as a resource, and please, please hit us up with DMs on social. Email us. Kayla's got emails, info@Golden Acre, I think. Don't get frustrated. The number one thing I see is people, they may not understand something I said, or they may go, oh, I can't get my succulent to fit. I swear, if you come in with everything and you're like, I can't make this work, I'll do it for you. I will do it one-on-one. The last thing I want, the whole purpose of this is for you guys to enjoy it. I mean, you guys probably know more about the science of plants than I ever will. Absolutely. And the purpose of this is purely for aesthetic and fun, and for you guys to enjoy that aspect of it. And that's what I want. That's my goal. I don't want you to be intimidated. I don't want you to get frustrated. I want you to enjoy it. So honestly, I wouldn't do this for every single group or every single time on GA Kids TV. But for you guys, if you're having a trouble and it just doesn't feel right, come in and see me, and I will build it one-on-one. We can even do it in my office. We can do it down here, make a mess together. Who cares? It'll be fun. So we'll make it happen. So that's it. And what I was going to say before that, when I got total say, if you guys followed me on GA Kids TV, you know I don't stay linear. My brain's like an adventitious route. I kind of just go wherever. What I was saying about the watering is everything I said there was for when your plant is established. When it's new like this, it's not going to hurt to give it a drink every day, every 2 days. And again, less is more. Your spray bottle and get right in there. And all that's going to do is it's just going to help the roots establish with the soil and form a good connection. It's going to help any gas exchange. It's going to stop any air pockets. So a little bit of water after it's initially planted is a good thing. after a week, 10 days, the bird's joining in too. Way to go, buddy. You having fun up there? What a great place to, you know what, even remember in February when it was brutal cold? This is how I got to start my day, walking through a greenhouse like this and listening to bird song. Pretty lucky. But you want to taper off after a week, 10 days. You want to start tapering off to as needed, and the plant will tell you that. So what I want to touch on now is the few ways there is to propagate a succulent. So again, these succulents, if your succulent starts dying, if while you are doing this, you broke a leaf, not the end of the world, it really isn't. So I've got that one succulent that I've already kind of not been too awesome to. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a couple of different things. So I think a lot of people have got one of these, have used one of these kicking around. Now, all these are, by the way, what I'm doing over here is that is just a, where's the front? It's just a peat pellet refill. That's all they are. They're super easy. I'm just throwing them in this saucer and I'm just going to hydrate them real quick. And while they're getting hydrated, I'll keep talking. So what you can do is there's any number of things you can use. You can use this if you've ordered food. If you've got any of these growing trays, these seeding trays, these work just great as well. You can also use the pot that your succulent just came out of, right? Reduce, reuse, recycle. I always end up keeping my pots. I always end up propagating succulents, spider plants. We've done, I propagate pothos is another one. A ton of things. I've never had luck with African violets. I was actually talking with my co-worker Sydney about that. I've only tried a few times. Might be something I try again, but that won't be today. So now you want to create one. So remember this beauty, and I flipped it upside down. I broke roots off it. I shoved it upside down in its own pot. Just lovely. Well, these guys, oh, that leaf came off finally. So this leaf came off of a succulent, much like that. And this little guy germinated from it. It took about 3 weeks, maybe a month. And that was literally sitting in the soil. You can actually see, zoom in, we got a better camera, little hole, and that's where it came from. Anyway, that's now garbage. And I have a new succulent, a new baby succulent. And literally all I did with that, and what I'll do is I'll use this tray here, is take the soil, and we're just going to go around like that. You don't need it to be crazy deep. And I'm just going to firm it down again. We're not knuckling it down. We're not trying to build a sand castle, a soil castle, if you will. All I want to do here is I just want a firm bed. But again, the whole idea here is to propagate. When you're propagating, those first tiny roots that come out, they need a very, very, very easy mix to start getting through. And that doesn't matter what it is. Even if you're doing a tree, a tomato, spider plants, whatever you're doing, you never want to use a heavy soil. When they go outside, if it is an outdoor plant, or when you're putting them in a bigger pot, you can go to a heavier soil for more stability. When they're young, they want that. So I'm going to take this guy out again. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do exactly what I asked you guys to not do. And see you later to the root ball. So now our root ball is gone and I've got this succulent. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull off these bottom leaves here. And you want to break the leaf. So you can see there one leaf broke off and it kind of left its petiole behind right there. That's not great. And that leaf I'm not going to use to propagate. I'm going to break that off the stem. There's the leaf. You can see I could probably propagate that. I'm not going to bother. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to go around and snap away from the stem. They come off real easy. And it doesn't matter how many. I'm just going to keep going here until I'm happy. Maybe take off that one. That's good enough. And nope, I'm going to take off these two. 1 and 2. So now that's what I have left, okay? Voila, that's it. We're gonna put him down right over there. So now, taking my tray of soil, and again, you can even use this. Use the pot that it came out of. Again, you can see I'm just gently firming down, never knuckle it down. Number one mistake, and we touched on this a couple of times on GA Kids TV, number one mistake people make when they're doing this stage, number one mistake people make with their houseplants is watering. Number one mistake people make at this stage of the game is they firm it. They either over firm it or they don't firm it at all. Right? All you want to do is just tuck it in. So it's just like that. And then I'm going to take the leaf where it broke off, and your leaf should look something like that. And again, I'm going to put it so that my new plant grows in the middle, so that my leaf isn't in the middle. And that's it. And that's all I'm going to do. Now I want to do more because I pulled all of these. Same thing. All I'm doing, I think I've got that firm enough so you guys can see that. Can we see that, Brandy?
Yeah, it's cute.
And then I'm literally just inserting that part under the soil and leaving it down like that. That's it. That's all I'm doing. And I'm just going to go around, and you want the leaf facing up. So exactly the way I broke it off the plant is the way it's going to go in the soil. Okay. And all I do is I go around. Ooh, I just make sure that part is buried, and then the leaf is going to be up. Now, you can do any pattern you want. I always do concentric circles. I don't know why. My brain finds it appealing, I guess. There's literally, again, that's an aesthetic thing. Has nothing to do with how it's going to grow. I've even done it with the leaf upside down. It's still green. It's still going to allow photosynthesis. But yeah, all I do is I just keep going around. There are two more, so I'll do that. I'll do that. Make sure they're all tucked in. And that's what it looks like. And that's it. Okay, and again, take my spray bottle. And all I want to do is water it. And I'm going to do this probably on this every day for the next 3 or 4 days. And I'm just going to keep it nice and moist. And I'm going to let that go. And I'm going to do the same thing with this guy. And what will end up happening is you will see from where the leaf snap off, that's just a leaf. There's no petiole on it. It's just the leaf that broke clean off the stem. And we're going to see a new plant come out of the soil there. So what, this isn't a seed, because it's a cutting, it needs light. If you've got warmth, great, but it needs light. It's not a seed. So a seed, I'm sure you guys again know this, but just to touch on it, a seed doesn't need light. It needs heat and moisture. This needs moisture and light, because the light's going to hit that, trigger photosynthesis. There's no roots. It's going to force it to make roots. It's going to do that, and it's going to send up a new shoot. So that's how you do it with that. And then, oh yeah, go ahead.
So Leanna's asking if you can do this with aloe vera leaves.
Yes, you can.
Yeah?
Yep, you can. Aloe vera is a succulent. You absolutely can do it. I've done it before with that. The only difference is with the aloe vera, where you break it off, you're going to want to sink it in a little bit deeper. And the reason for that is because quite often they're longer leaves. Lying it on the surface, it'll trap moisture. So you can see these guys, for the most part, are all lifted up slightly, right? So the leaf came down and it had a lift like that. So it's lifted off the soil. You take a long, and this one here is a good example. I've even got them resting on the plastic. With the aloe vera, if you lie it down flat on the soil, what will end up happening is you'll trap moisture between the leaf and the soil itself, and then that leaf is going to rot, and then you're finished. It won't be able to propagate. So with an aloe vera, I'll do the same thing, except I will sink it in maybe an inch, inch and a half, whatever can hold it stable, leave it like that. And then the exact same thing, water and light to propagate. Now these things are great too. So you can see that's already expanded with the water I put in my saucer. And then same thing. And like I said at the beginning, all succulents are the same. So this poor guy thought he was going to get away with it, but he's not. I'm going to pull leaves off of him too. Same thing. Pull a tiny leaf off and stick it in. And that's literally all we're going to do here. I don't know what I'm going to do with all these plants. I'm sure we'll find a home for them on GA Kids TV. If you guys have been watching, you know, Brandy and I don't think we can go a week without giving things away. And I don't think that's going to change this season. And the other wonderful thing is I haven't damaged that plant at all. That plant is still completely fine. I didn't even take that one out of the pot. And it is going to do just fine. And I now have 5 plants growing. And it's that easy. So, yep.
Rachel's asking if you can do this with ivy.
Ivy is a tricky one. Yes, you can. I have done it with ivy. My problem with ivy, the reason I don't do ivy is getting it to grow after it's rooted. Doing this, once it's propagated, it's got a good root form. You put it in soil, 9 times out of 10 it dies. And I think a lot of that has to do with Calgary. It gets shocked from being in the moisture. Ivy really thrives in places, Montreal and England, where it's humid. And it really loves that. It doesn't like the dry so much. If you want to try it, absolutely you can. I did ivy, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago in my office upstairs. Did amazing. I put it in a pot and it was dead within 2 weeks. So yes, you can. And that's a great thing. Trial and error. Try it on a number of plants. There even are some plants. Sanseviera is one. You can actually take the leaf, chop it into 1-inch sections and propagate an entire plant off a 1-inch section of leaf. Have fun. A lot of times you don't have to kill the whole plant. Like this, we're succulent. Yeah, we just did it some damage, but it was to illustrate what I'm doing. So this one succulent, and that's the thing, the reason I'm still holding this, it's not dead yet. It still has a purpose. So that's how we do it in soil. So I'm going to move these over here. And one thing I do like as well, I will say this method here can be a little tricky. Once all those come up to separate them, all I use, honestly, is I use a tablespoon and I just dig around the leaf because the roots won't be that big and I lift it out independently. This way here, much more preferable. And this is the ideal because it's literally growing into its pot. So, and what you can do as well, if you notice your succulent not doing great in your terrarium and it starts dying, you can literally do that. You can take a leaf off, put it in the soil in the terrarium and propagate it in the terrarium where it is. I have also done that. You're not going to get the instant effect. It will take time, but it absolutely does work. And then the other method of propagation, just, okay, good, we're still good for time. I can grab it on in case you guys haven't noticed at great length about it. Maybe if I stayed on track once in a while. So this succulent here, I took it cutting 2 years ago, maybe a bit longer now, and I threw it in water. And it looked exactly like this, like literally that same pot. And that, do you guys notice, is like that, and that's already putting roots out. So this one obviously hasn't had a chance, already rooting. I think that's been in water now for a few days, maybe 3-4 days. That's what this one is going to get. So this succulent here, yeah, I'd say I'm propagating, but clearly it is actually growing. So this came out on the stem, and if you look down here, there's another baby one coming out right there. And I started doing this with the intent of planting it. I had a succulent at home, wasn't doing good. I cut it. I ended up with something like this, and I threw it in water. I threw it in a jar and I said, there we go, it'll do fine. It started getting big and the jar was filled with it. And I was like, don't have time to plant. So I just moved it to a bigger glass jar. Then I moved it to another, and finally I was like, okay, I guess this is how it lives now. And I don't even know if I would put it in soil now, for how big the pot would be. I think it might even shock it. And it's a great educational tool. So I'll show you the root system on this when I lift it out. And it is kind of gross, but it's made its own little system in here. It loves the algae. I never fertilize, but that's the root system coming off that. So you can see all of those roots. And yeah, they're green. There's algae in this as well. And every 4 months, I did it last year with GA Kids TV. So yeah, maybe every 4 months, 3 times a year, I'll change the water. I'll give it a scrub and put it in. And then I just let it feed itself. It gets no fertilizer. The reason it is so twisted and gnarled is I keep moving it around. I take it to places for educational. I put it down next to my grow light. Well, my grow light's over here, so that top is trying to get to the grow light, and I just kind of let it do its own thing. So literally all the people who are like, oh no, succulents are really tricky to grow, they're not. They will do their own thing. And this always makes me laugh because, you know, if we go right back to the beginning when I was like, oh, be careful how much water you give it. This literally lives in water all the time. One thing I will say is be very careful on fertilizing succulents. If you choose to do this method and propagate it in water, I do find this method to be quicker than this method. But if you do it like this in water, I see a number of people who go, oh, well, I'll add fertilizer. What normally ends up happening is you get an algae bloom. The plant can't take up much more. It's saturated. It's living in water. So the fertilizer, essentially the NPK, just kind of become useless. And what they do is they create algae. There's organic material. It's in light. Normally it's in a warm area. Perfect breeding ground. There's no water circulation. Voila. So this has no fertilizer and it creates algae. You add fertilizer to that, you can actually start rotting your plant off. Fertilizing this method here, no problem. Follow the manufacturer's instructions. With fertilizer, less is always more. I always dial it back by a third. So if they say, you know, 1 tablespoon, 2/3 of a tablespoon to a liter of water, always dial it back. They want you to buy their product. They have figured out the maximum amount to make your plant healthy and dialed it back by 1 before you kill your plant. You don't need that much. As you can see, the plants will do fine on their own. Light is plant food, fertilizer is some multivitamins, if you will. So that's how you propagate. And again, this one here, oh, go ahead, Randy.
How much light do succulents need?
A fair amount. All of my succulents are in very bright areas. I try to not put them in direct south or west facing windows, but I'll definitely have them in south and west facing rooms. Too much direct sunlight can dry them out too quick and shock them. That being said, if you're prepared to water very regularly, you know, every other day kind of thing, it can be done. Where we have our succulents here in the greenhouse behind me, in the summer, as Brandy will testify, it gets real hot. And they are in full sun. Yeah, we have a Lexan covering, but it doesn't do much. And the staff literally, they start at the front, they walk down and water, and the next day they're doing that cycle again. So it can absorb a lot of sun, they can take it. I find my succulents do really good under a grow light. It's not as powerful as the sun, and you're not getting the heat to dry it out. Or they do really good in a very well-lit, non-direct light area. So that is what we do there. And then, like I said, this one, I didn't bring down a container for it. So these guys are going to work on the buddy system right now until I get back up to my office. And all I want to do is just make sure it's in water. That didn't go in deep enough. So what we'll do is we'll just top it up. And that's the great thing about succulents, is that honestly, you can keep creating your own. Don't get disheartened. You know, things like these packets here, these things, we sell them individually. I think they're 25 cents each. Any little pot you've got lying around. Food trays like this. Just remember, when using a food tray like this, there is no drainage. So really be careful with watering. Again, water less water more frequently. And you'll be fine. Like I said, this one is nice and wet. I'm going to go put it on a heat pad. By tomorrow it'll be dry, and I'll give it a shot of water again. So I hope you guys had fun. Like I said, any questions? We're going to take some Q&A now. If you want some one-on-one advice and you want some fun tips like that, please let us know. And any questions, let's get them going.